Anthony from Ilkeston Live, and today I'm joined by Tilly, an aspiring politician, and she's been on this show before. And I've also got Adam Thompson, and he's joining us. He's the Labour MP of Erewash.
Hey, Anthony.
Tilly, would you like to start with questions?
Yes. So you have officially been the MP for Erewash for over a year now. What would you say is some highlights from this first year? Like, what instantly comes to your mind?
Oh, that's such a wonderful question. Thank you both. I mean, firstly, lovely to be back. Very, very nice to be here.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's flown by, really. It feels like only yesterday that we were sat here a little while ago and we were having a conversation where you were saying, Tilly, like, oh, Adam, you're the brand new MP. What are you going to do? Now, of course, we've been here a year and I've got to talk about all the stuff I've done. What are the highlights? I mean, there's loads. Every week is a roller coaster in politics. And there are massive highlights every week. But I think the thing that is probably the best for me, the thing that I've enjoyed most, is just like helping individual people. So one of the things I report back on my Facebook quite often is stuff that we have done, me and my team have done that week. And it could be anything from getting a pothole sorted to getting somebody a new house, a new social house. We can make really kind of big life-changing differences. And those are massive highlights every time. Of course, lots in Parliament as well, but if I had to pick one thing, it would be helping out individuals.
Yeah, well, that links to my other question. In our last interview, you talked about putting the power in the hands of local people. Is that a way you say you've accomplished this, by talking to your constituents?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I do as much kind of engagement with people all the time as I can. I do a lot of kind of regular surgeries in different spots around Erewash. We did one last week just up the road in the Cantaloupe Centre. It was really nice, and it's an opportunity for people to talk to me directly. And I think that really is useful in empowering people, because if people can sit me down for half an hour and bend my ear about something, but really get across the position that they take and the thing that they're interested in, I've then got the opportunity to do that again, but on the other side of the table, where I'm sitting in front of the Minister or the Secretary of State and say, listen, this is what my constituents really care about. So that kind of direct engagement with people is so useful for achieving that.
Yeah, definitely. You also said that your long-term plan was to make Erewash a little bit better. Have you taken any steps to do this so far? What are they?
Yeah, so kind of everything I do, to be honest, Tilly. I mean, everything that we vote on in Parliament is all about, for me, making Erewash a little bit better. But something we did in the last couple of weeks, I had a really good meeting a couple of weeks ago, just around the corner on the marketplace, with Nicole Duenny, who's the Police and Crime Commissioner. I was with Becca Everett from the council, and I was with the local police chief, Dave Walker, and one of the police community support officers as well. And we were talking about how we can improve policing and address some of the antisocial behaviour and some of the serious crime that we've had in Ilkeston Town Centre in the last couple of months. So we had a really long, good discussion about the issues. We actually walked around the town centre and spoke to some people, had a good chat with some of the other folks that were around, and kind of let them raise their issues to all of these people. But one of the things that came out was that because of some money the government's put aside, because of votes I took down in London, Nicole, as the Police and Crime Commissioner, has got access to some more funding. So she's hiring at the moment 35 new police officers, and we're going to see some of those on the ground in Ilkeston pretty soon. So it's these big things that happen kind of nationally, where I vote on something down in London, and then tangibly it comes down the chain, and eventually we see something on the ground. So Nicole was really pleased the other day to say, hey, by the end of this year, we're going to see some more police officers on the beat in Ilkeston. And that's exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah. I actually did have a question about the antisocial behaviour, because I think in Erewash, and especially in Ilkeston, there's been a significant rise in it in the last year. So do you think these steps by the police commissioners and these new officers are going to help people feel safe in their community?
I really hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, I keep pretty on top of the figures and things changing, and there's certainly been a rise in people seeing it and noting it. I don't know if there's been a massive rise in the statistics, but certainly there's been a lot of people coming to me and saying, we've got this big problem in antisocial behaviour. And the thing that people ask for most often is more police on the beat. And that's what we're delivering now, and I think that's really positive. Doesn't mean that there isn't other things that we can do. I've been doing some work with some youth groups in Ilkeston, some young people generally in Ilkeston particularly, talking about like the lack of kind of having anything to do for young people growing up, and trying to do some work with the council to put some things in place. So yes, it's going to be really helpful that we've got some more police officers on the beat, but it's not just about addressing the kind of symptoms of the problem, as it were. We've also got to work pretty hard to deal with the causes, and the kind of underlying causes of people yeah, I guess with nothing to do, and therefore just kind of causing antisocial behaviour.
That's an interesting point, yeah, because I've definitely seen, especially among young people, there seems to be a rise in this aggression and violence, so I think that could be a good first step.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was having a really long, deep discussion with a young person a few days ago about kind of knife crime, and this is something that's changed. You know, I'm not that old, I'm 34, right? But the difference in my age and your age is when I was kind of your age, it was totally unheard of, really, for anybody to be carrying knives. Yeah. But I hear a lot from folks your age who come to me and they say, yeah, I know there are people walking around in my school, in my community, carrying weapons. You know, there's a huge amount we've got to do to stop that, because that scares me, right? Rightly, and I think it scares a lot of young people too.
Yeah, so what steps would you take to stop this knife crime?
Yeah, so great question. And one of the things we've done is we've changed the law to make sale of these particularly large knives illegal. So actually there's going to be less access to them now these laws are coming into play. It's also the case that we've got to have those more police on the streets, but we've also got to reach out into schools. I'm hoping to do some work reaching out into schools in the next kind of year or so, where you know, I'd like to come in and talk to young people about kind of the outcomes of this. And obviously we've seen this in a pretty awful, horrific way in Ilkeston in the last couple of years, where young people have been killed in various different instances. One indeed in a stabbing incident. Yeah, it's huge, and it's massively impactful on our community, and I think a lot of people are hurting at the moment, so we need to do as much as we can, I think, Tilly.
Yeah, I agree. So I've been keeping up with your work in Parliament as well. You have voted in favour of the Assisted Dying Bill, the bill to renationalise our rails and British Steel, and the Universal Credit Bill. How have your constituents influenced these decisions, or has there been any other personal factors or anything that has influenced you?
That's a wonderful question. I'll start with assisted dying. So this was massive, because this was not a whipped vote. So the government didn't tell me which way to vote. I had a totally free call, which is rare, actually. There's only been 2 or 3 times in the last year where we've had hundreds of votes. There's only been 2 or 3 where I've had the opportunity to really choose. I wasn't told which way to vote. And the assisted dying bill is one of those things. When I stood for election, actually, I was really quite vocal that I was in favour of a safeguarded assisted dying law. So a lot of people spoke to me in advance, wrote to me and asked me what my opinions were, and I replied to every single one and said, hey, listen, if I'm elected, if this comes up, this is something that I am supportive of. And I should say, you know, what we have here is a law specifically focused on people within 6 months of death with terminal illness. They are now being given the right to choose to die if they so wish, and that was what I supported. That said, I had a huge number of people get in touch with me as the MP about this issue, lots via email. Some came along to my surgeries. I had lots and lots and lots of conversations. For me, I always had really strong opinions on this, and because I was so clear on it in the run-up to the election, I felt kind of empowered because I've been elected to be able to make that decision. But I know lots of colleagues held big meetings and kind of really weren't sure, spent a long time working out their opinions. But for me, I felt like I'd gone into it with a clear position. The second one, what was the second one you cited there, Tilly?
It's the renationalisation of the railways and British Steel.
So this is a great example of something where you know, the government had a really clear position on this. Completely opposite to the assisted dying bill, where I was given a free vote. The renationalisation of the railways and steel were both things where the government said, Adam, we need you to vote this way. But of course, as a Labour MP, those were things that I was really passionately in favour of. So, you know, we came in with a really clear manifesto promise that we were going to renationalise the railways. It's enormously popular. Whenever you ask people, something like 80% of people were in favour of renationalising the railways. So that was something that I was really pleased to walk through the lobbies in favour of, because that was a big manifesto promise for us. Steel, a bit less so, because that kind of took us unawares. I got a literal phone call on sort of 2:30 on a Friday afternoon with my office team around me. I was actually not feeling well. I was having a migraine at the time, so I was sort of sat in the corner of my office with my hand over my eyes, taking a rest for a minute. And they said, "Adam, you're going back to work tomorrow." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" But no, lo and behold, we got in the car. Normally I take a train to work, but the trains were out that Saturday, so I got in the car and I drove down to London, and we renationalised the steel industry. And again, that was something that was absolutely necessary. Pretty much, my understanding was there were going to be thousands of job losses on Monday morning unless we did that on Saturday daytime. So we had to go down and do that. But again, something I was really proud to be able to do, because I then get to go home after a really long, hard day's work and say, what did we do today? We saved a few thousand jobs. And that was really, really powerful. And then what was the third thing?
The universal credit bill.
Yeah, universal credit bill. So again, this was a contentious bill, much less contentious, I would say, now. It was called the Universal Credit and Personal Independence Payment Bill.
Yeah, I think that's the long name.
The contentious part was broadly the personal independent payment part. That got very contentious and ended up being removed. So the bill got changed from Universal Credit and PIP to just Universal Credit, and they basically took the contentious part out. So in the end, what we are doing there is we're taking the benefit system and saying the benefit system is not particularly functional right now. For some people it's incredibly hard to get, but also we're spending an incredible amount of money on it, and we are looking at the first steps towards reforming the benefits system so that it's a fairer system, but also so that it still exists in 10 years, because the government were pretty clear on this. They said, listen, if we carry on at our current rate of play, we're going to find ourselves with a completely unsustainable system. So what we had in the end was actually, I voted for an uplift to universal credit. So some people who were on universal credit ended up with a bit more support than they were getting previously, or will do when the law comes into place. And again, as a Labour MP, that was something I believe very, very passionately in, and indeed the government was very supportive of.
Okay, lovely. Do you want to ask your questions now?
Yeah, so I've got a few questions on the devolution. So of
Oh,
course,
great.
The devolution has been on topic of Ilkeston life for quite a while now. And could you tell us more about it and what it means for the people of Erewash, as well as your own opinions?
Yeah, fantastic, Anthony. Thank you. So we're talking about devolution kind of broadly. This is something that I'm very much in favour of and like really believe in. So mostly the kind of concept of devolution is that there is more power given to local communities. Basically means that here we've got more power over what happens to us in the local area. What this is manifesting as at the moment in politics is a reorganisation of the way local government is set up. So at the moment in Erewash, we've got one member of parliament. We've got around about 9, if you include all of the Erewash district, we've got 9 county councillors who sit on Derbyshire County Council. And that is one organisation. Then we've got Erewash Borough Council, and there are 47 councillors who sit on Erewash Borough Council. And those are completely separate organisations. In terms of council tax funding, which is where they get most of their money, about 90% ends up going to, or something like 70% goes to Derbyshire, I think, and about 15-20% goes to Erewash, and the rest go to the police and fire. But Derbyshire gets most, Erewash much smaller portion. But the discrepancy between the councils, I think, is quite confusing for a lot of people. To give you an idea, Derbyshire County Council looks after roads, they look after schools, they look after healthcare, whereas Erewash looks after kind of town centres, they look after bins, some of these more local services. But one of the big problems that I think a lot of people come to me with is they have an issue with some council issue, and they say, I've contacted the council and they told me to go away. Well, it's because they probably called up the wrong council. It's a great challenge all the time. And there are also quite a lot of inefficiencies that come in from having these kind of 2 tiers of local government. So what the national government has said we're going to do is reorganise the whole system so that we've got one local council. Instead of having 2 different tiers of it, we're going to have just a single unitary authority. What we are doing now is going through a really long process of deciding what that new council is going to look like. So we've decided that Erewash and Derbyshire are both going to cease to exist in their current form, and actually all of the other borough councils around Derbyshire are going to cease to exist too. That then gives us a sort of geographical area which covers Derbyshire for us to work out what the new system is going to look like. Now, it's looking at the moment like there's going to be 2 councils that cover all the public services. Probably we're going to see a North Derbyshire and a South Derbyshire. I think we would see ourselves in South Derbyshire, and that would probably include Derby City as well. There's a bit of a discussion at the moment happening about whether Amber Valley ends up in the north or in the south, or actually gets split in 2 and some of it goes in the north, some of it goes in the south. That's an ongoing discussion that there's a kind of consultation live about at the moment. But I think it's a really good opportunity for us to relook at our council services again, make sure that they're delivering everything to the best of their ability, where the funds aren't quite lining up, because Erewash is actually in a really good place. The Erewash Borough Council financially have done some fantastic work over the last kind of 2 years of getting Erewash in a good financial position. Derbyshire is in a terrible financial position. So relooking at the kind of council finances to make sure that we can fund those properly and they can keep delivering the services. There are also a lot of issues with certain services. So I do a huge amount of work. Those who follow my social media will see this. I do a huge amount of work supporting families with kids with special educational needs and disabilities. That's a service provided by Derbyshire and has been broadly rated as failing quite badly over the last couple of years. And I think it is failing to the point where the whole system really needs replacing. So I think this new council is going to be a huge opportunity for us to create a new system which is much more supportive of our SEND families, because there's huge failings in the system. So I'm really hopeful that we can do something good there. But yeah, that's kind of how devolution is manifesting at the moment. But it's a much bigger topic than that. That's just the kind of thing that we're focusing on right now.
And of course, it's a very big change that's going to happen. So does the public have any say in these changes?
Absolutely, Anthony. So obviously the big poll, as it were, was the general election. That we said in the general election that we were going to go through this devolution process. But in terms of the kind of granular nature of what's happening right now, Derbyshire County Council, they've currently got a big consultation live on what the new two councils are going to look like, and I'd encourage anybody that wants to have their say on devolution to make sure they're engaging with that consultation.
And we have quite a lot of elderly people living in Ilkeston, and I'm sure that across Erewash as well. And is there any way for them to access this consultation? Because I do know it's on the website, but maybe they're not very tech savvy. Is there any way?
Yeah, good question. I would say best thing they can do is get in contact directly with Derbyshire County Council. I'm afraid I don't have the number off the top of my head, but I would say give Derbyshire County Council a ring and say, I would like to engage with this, but I'm not happy to do it online, for example. And if they have any trouble with that, please get in touch with me, and I'm more than happy to wade in and see if we can get something sorted.
Or they can put it in Ilkeston Life.
Or they can put it in Ilkeston Life, says Paul. Perfect.
And then, have you also what efforts have also been made to make the public, make the consultation known to the general public? Because before reading it on the website, I didn't really know much about it.
Yeah, there's been, I have done a lot on my social media, kind of personally talking about this and talking about devolution. I think the government is doing a fair bit. There's a lot of kind of adverts going out on social media and things.
Any door-to-door?
So I have talked about it on doorsteps a lot. It hasn't necessarily been something that I've gone out and said, okay, team, today we're just talking about this. But lots of people raise this with me all the time as I do my regular door knocking sessions. So I talk about it door-to-door quite a lot. I don't know if Derbyshire has necessarily done things, although I can see somebody off camera is just nodding at me. I believe they've written to every house, actually. Yes, they have done door knocking, says my friend off camera.
That's very good. And another question I have, a bit different from the devolution, is so here in Ilkeston, you probably noticed that we've lost quite a lot of local businesses and big names like Farm Foods and Game. Are there any plans or any funding to help increase the number of shops coming in, or to reduce the number of shops leaving? Yeah,
that's a really great question, Anthony. And it's heartbreaking. I've been shopping in Games since I was 10 years old, right? And those are a whole chain of shops that aren't so prevalent anymore. The council's actually doing some really good work on this. I was really impressed by this. So they've expanded their shop sign grant. So the whole point here is that they can support new businesses and indeed existing businesses who want to spruce up their shop fronts. And we have a lot of dilapidated old shop fronts. So I think it's really nice that there's a grant in place, and they've just done a massive expansion. This used to be just in Ilkeston and Long Eaton town centres. They're now much larger parts of the towns and indeed lots of the villages. So really big expansion. We are also, the government is in the process of changing the way that business rates work, and the whole point about the kind of change in business rates was to rebalance things so it was cheaper for really small businesses and more expensive for, say, Amazon.com warehouses. And this is kind of a big national change. So yes, at all levels of local government, there's a lot of work being done. But it's one of the things I care about really deeply, because I'd love to see the town centres thrive again, especially as we kind of move away through time from old school retail, which for whatever reason, lots of online businesses have kind of taken that away, and we need to really reevaluate the way we interact with our town centres. The council in Erewash as well is doing some really great stuff down in Long Eaton at the moment. Lots of people will have seen that right now the Galaxy Row Cinema is being taken down brick by brick, and this is because of a large amount of money that the council won in a grant a number of years ago, to kind of rejuvenate the town centre in Long Eaton. Now that money was locked into Long Eaton. Ilkeston and the villages didn't get any access to that, but I've been chatting again to the council recently, and they've put together a kind of package of money that they're hoping to now invest in Ilkeston town centre to kind of give more and more support to the local businesses to help them thrive. So I think there's a lot of good stuff being done. There's always more to do for sure, but some good news.
That would be very good because Long Eaton did get a lot of money very recently, and Ilkeston hasn't had as much. So it'd be good to have a nice fair distribution of funding through.
I totally agree. It's kind of a hangover actually from some work that the previous government did years ago, where they basically put together a bid system for councils to bid in and say, we want this pot of money. Now, Erewash back in the day won this money and specifically focused it on Long Eaton, and it has been tied to that for the sort of 5 or 6 years since that first came in. My government doesn't necessarily agree with that process. What we'd like to do is kind of reassess the system and rework where the money goes. It shouldn't be dependent on councils writing bids that are good or not. A bid did go in for Ilkeston a couple of years after the Long Eaton one, and it got rejected. And I don't think that was fair. So I'm really pleased that the local council's been able to kind of redo that, but also that the national government is rejigging the way that works to make it kind of fairer.
All right, very good. And I think the final question from me for now. During the 2025 local Derbyshire County Council elections, of course, Reform UK, they had a large victory, including a huge part of Erewash. And have you been working with this new council, and has the Reform victory influenced you or the Labour Party in any way?
Yeah, that's a great question, Anthony. I mean, I will work with anybody. So first thing I did after the local elections, although the Labour Party lost every seat in Erewash, and obviously I was disappointed by that, but the first thing I did was send everybody a letter saying congratulations on your election. I think that's a nice thing to do, and I said, I'm happy to work with everybody regardless of what their political views are, because I think that's really important. Went up to Matlock to meet with the new administration. I think they're really still kind of settling in at the moment and kind of getting to grips with their new roles. So yeah, we'll see kind of how it develops, but I'm always happy to work with everybody. In terms of, does it change my perspectives on how I do things? No, I mean, the manifesto that I stood on when I was elected on a year ago is still the same. So I'm still working every day to deliver the promises that I made in that manifesto and that the Labour Party made in that manifesto. That's not going to change. It changes the political landscape a little bit differently, but previously the Conservatives were in charge of reform and I was were in charge of Derbyshire County Council and I was in opposition. Now the Reform Party are in charge of Derbyshire County Council and I'm in opposition. They've got slightly different policies. In many ways, they're pretty similar, to be perfectly honest, and a lot of the issues that I was experiencing with them around special educational needs in particular, they're still there. So that certainly hasn't changed the way that I'm interfacing with them. They are one of the organisations that I write to on behalf of constituents, probably more than anyone, is Derbyshire County Council, because there are so many families struggling with them. So they get about 4 or 5 letters from me a day sometimes.
Wow. Okay, so your first year is done, and going forward, what are your plans for this next year as MP?
Yeah, fantastic, Tilly. So I'm wanting to build on a lot of the things that I've done in the first year. A lot of I think when we spoke last time, I was in the process of really setting up my team, getting an office in place, getting everything up and running. Now I have those systems. They exist, and my team are really very functional and doing great work. We are doing everything we can to support local people all the time, and running regular surgeries, etc. My goal over the next year is to kind of build on all of those things. So making sure that we continue delivering things, but also I'm focusing on kind of a few big campaigns in the area. One kind of focused on the north of the constituency, one sort of on the middle and one on the south. So in the north, I've got this big campaign that I'm going to launch pretty soon, focused on addressing some of the knife crime issues that we were talking about earlier. So I'm going to be doing some campaign work to try and get bleed kits in lots of different locations around Ilkeston. I'll be a bleed kit, for those that aren't aware. It's a little bit like, you can think of it like a defibrillator. So you know how defibrillators often sit on street corners and they help people if they have heart attacks. Bleed kits sit in similar locations, and then if you get stab attacks, then bleed kits might be able to save lives. So I'm hoping to get lots of those installed. That's going to be a big campaign in the north of the constituency. In the south, then, Long Eaton has recently lost a lot of banks. Ilkeston's got a couple that are still hanging on, but Long Eaton's lost a lot of banks, so I'm running a big campaign for a banking hub to try and restore some of the services that have been taken out of Long Eaton. And in the middle of the constituency, and this is kind of Stanton, Sandy Acre, Risley area in particular, there's a lot of problems with traffic, actually. And as we see new Stanton Park being built on the old Stanton Ironworks site, something I'm really, really pleased about. It's going to be amazing, all these fantastic new industries and jobs, etc. But it does mean an increase in traffic in the area. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is support those local businesses to make sure the rail spur that used to serve Stanton Ironworks many years ago, that gets brought fully back into use so that we can get people get freight on the railway. But equally, I'm running like a long-term campaign for a new junction on the M1. And I've already sat down and spoken to ministers and spoken to lots of local people.
Asking for that.
So a lot of people have been asking for that. And, to be fair, Maggie, my predecessor, she was running a similar campaign. I intend to very much double down. I'd love to see a new junction on the M1, especially as we move forward into the construction of the new Stanton Park. And as more businesses move in, we're going to need that more and more. So that's something I'm really focused on. So broadly, what I want to do is build on the things that I've done the first year, but really kind of focus on some of these local campaigns. Equally, keep building up all the work I'm doing in Parliament. I set myself a goal to speak in Parliament 3 times a week minimum, and most weeks I meet that. So just giving as many kind of speeches as I can and doing lots of work with my team to make sure that I'm saying stuff that we've put lots of research into and talking on lots of different issues and asking lots of questions of the government and all that good stuff. So yeah, lots of plans is the answer, Tilly.
Very nice. You can end it.
Alright, thank you for coming, and it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Anthony. Much appreciated. Thank you, Tilly.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you in the next one.